A really weird thing happened to me. I seen that Burnley had confirmed the signing of Jacob Bruun Larsen, and I thought I was experiencing a full-on Mandela effect. As soon as I seen that news, I was certain I've lived in a timeline, I've lived in a universe where Jacob Bruun Larsen has played for Burnley. This is something that I know has happened already. So I quickly rushed on to double check, look, why did I think this? Did he maybe end up at Aston Villa or West Ham or something? I don't know. Why did I think that? And then I looked and I seen he did play for Burnley. It wasn't a genuine Mandela effect, certainly, anyway. But this was history repeating itself. Jacob Bruun Larsen has returned to Burnley, hot off the heels of Kyle Walker signing for Burnley, joining up with former England international teammate Scott Parker. Kyle Walker comes into this Burnley team that we previewed on the channel a week or two ago to add some real top-end Premier League experience and quality. And with, the comment section, I must say, by the way, guys, on the last video was phenomenal. So many of you guys got in touch to let us know that you enjoyed the video and gave us lots of notes, lots of extra insight and intel, a lot of extra food for thought on players that we should add into the equation here, and different things that you think Burnley will be pursuing in the transfer window, and really what you think about the existing business, the absence of Egan Riley. You all seemed pretty unified that you need a centre forward, that you need a striker. And like I say, overall, a lot of lovely positive feedback and interactions, and a lot of lovely insight coming from the Burnley faithful to make sure that any future content that we're running here on the channel, you've got our back. You know that we're looking at this from arm's length, and we're really interested in seeing what Burnley do in the transfer window, and ultimately how they try and maintain that Premier League status coming into next season. A lot of you guys were pretty certain and pretty nailed on that Josh Brownhill wasn't going to be in the team anymore. It looks like he is MLS bound, as well as underlining the fact, for me certainly anyway, that Blair Humphreys is a main player, a key player that you guys will think will play a big role in the Burnley squad this season. So thanks to every one of you that enjoyed the video, that tuned in, that hit the like button, that hit subscribe as well, and all you guys that left a comment as well. I always say on these videos, I'm always interested and excited to see the comment section, and I love to see the comment section absolutely flying away with thoughts, opinions, and your own takeaways from watching the content. It really does mean a lot. It makes it a lot easier to make as well, and hopefully it makes it better for the next one that you come back to. And one of the main things that did come out in the comment section, like I mentioned, was the desire for another centre forward to come in. I've been quite impressed with the quality that Burnley seem to be stacking up in these wide attacking areas here, with the addition of Chuana, Marcus Edwards. In the last video we were chatting a bit about them, and obviously the actual volume of strikers that are actually here. But we did mention this in the last video, the main sort of profile of a striker, of a guy that's been highlighted to bring in, has been Josh Sargent, and Tolu Akodore, if that's how you say it, I'm not too sure, I'm sorry, from Genk, which is hotly rumoured and might be somewhat imminent. He has much more of that kind of arrowhead forward that these driving wingers could feed and support, and we spoke about some of the tactical versatility that might come into the Burnley team. But with the confirmation that there is no Brownhill, Jacob Bruun Larsen, you guys were saying, will add some steel into the midfield, and I could see him being used in this kind of 8 kind of shape. I've always recognised this guy more as a kind of wider player, but you have seen him play more than I have, no doubt, with him being a former Burnley player. So I just put him in Brownhill's spot just for easiness. But again, we're waiting for Burnley to do some friendlies before we see what Scott Parker's early plans are, because Esteve is a left-footed centre-back, and again, you guys were quite unanimous at keeping him as one of the major parts of the transfer window being a success this year. So him playing left centre-back feels kind of nailed on, and would it ever transition to a back 5 with Humphreys and Hartman on this left-hand side? Because he's paid a lot of money for him, he's very highly rated, and I know how good Hartman is. I can't imagine him not playing for Burnley. But I think the Kyle Walker addition into the squad, alongside Bruun Larsen's got a bit of experience in the top 5 leagues and in the Premier League, obviously that's kind of valuable, but Walker coming in here is a real level up, a real captain addition into the squad here, where if you can get another Walker type player, maybe like what's the defensive midfielder City had from Leeds? Calvin Phillips. You maybe add another Calvin Phillips type player in here. You really do need a Premier League level defensive mid. Like, Cullen has been okay in the league before, hasn't he? But I don't think you can put the weight of your defensive shielding on his shoulders. But I do like the idea of maybe there being a more defensive midfielder if JBL is going to be a box-to-box 8 alongside Medjbury. Maybe even Zion Fleming could be adapted into that sort of role as well if someone like Tolu comes in to play that kind of arrowhead forward type situation. Because Burnley have done this before. Get promoted into the Premier League and then maintain, retain that status, be successful, stave off relegation, and then improve and compound window after window. And you know, if this is anywhere near the sort of shape that they're going to be, you can imagine this being tight and narrow when they're against the ball and, you know, playing maybe a more dominant, a more favoured outfit, and it will then all be about counter-attack, which means Koleosho and Edwards on this side, Anthony and Chuana, maybe Trezor comes back into the picture. You guys don't think that's too likely, as well as all the pace that is in and around this squad elsewhere. You know that they're going to have good options from the bench. You know they're going to have counter-attack routes to go, and that's a great way for Burnley to go around, because again, quite rightly with a lot of you guys what he's pointed out, losing Trafford and Egan Riley is like the main thing that made a big difference for Burnley last year, was how good they were defensively. And you need to have that defensive prominence in the Premier League if you're going to survive. Scoring goals is, I personally think it's more important, because without scoring goals, it doesn't matter how good your defence is, you've got no chance. You need a few guys that can score goals and do it at the top end of the pitch, but you obviously do need a solid defence. You cannot be leaky at the back. So maybe signing this Brazilian keeper that you've been linked to as well, Jordan Bayer, Twanzebe, maybe there's a wee bit of a fight for centre back all of a sudden. Esteve, again, you guys highly rate. But I think that like Burnley are going to be going this type of way, like counter-attack, use pace in the wide areas, have a big target man to play off of, with creative players in the centre area breaking forward and, you know, creating those chances to get the goals in the first half and the second half, with substitutions coming on and changing the game or whatever. It puts a lot of pressure on this defensive midfielder to be, probably needs to be the best player in the team at this point. You know, we see the business that other Premier League sides are doing, and, you know, Burnley, if this is anywhere near the sort of makeup of what they're going to do, this guy needs to be two guys. He needs to be good enough to really be all across the pitch, play the kind of 38 matches in the league and hit the ground running. Because I would have thought, and I think maybe the consensus would be something more like it's a two-man engine room. Jacob Bruun Larsen, I don't think really it is in for that purpose, but again, I would recognise this guy as more of a wide player, and with the amount of players and the amount of quality it's in those positions, again, I can't imagine he's signing to job share any of those roles, so it's a weird one. But I would have imagined it would be a two-man engine room, in which case Cullen becomes a bit more serviceable for me, but this player would still have a lot of onus, would have a lot of pressure on being a success, being a big name signing, and maybe even a playmaker type as well for those games where, if it is this type of setup where it's like a 4-1-4-1, someone that can actually put their foot on the ball, dictate the tempo, pull the strings, and kind of make it happen from deep in those tighter matches against the other teams in the bottom half of the league, or those games against the top end teams where you're upsetting the apple cart, you're going against the grain or whatever. So I think that, you know, I've not got Trafford on the board. That departure hasn't been confirmed yet, but I think that is maybe one of the big domino effects that will happen here for Burnley. I just wanted to kind of pick up where we left off with them because of the Mandela effect kind of thing I thought I had here with Jacob Bruun Larsen, and also I did think that the Walker transfer was a real marquee signing, because there's not many teams in the bottom half of the table. I know Jordan Henderson has just went to Brentford, but I think if Brentford is upper mid-table, even with the change of manager and how many players are losing or whatever, but there's not many players like Walker kicking around. You know, Ashley Young's still in and around the team as well somewhere, but these guys, you could maybe even say Welbeck was a little bit of that for Brighton. We've seen Milner be a bit of that for Brighton. It can be not a difference in the tight matches, but I do think it can add a mentality, a composure, a confidence kind of into the team about being professional, sticking to your job, giving absolutely everything when you're out there. And again, these kind of mentor type, those more veteran, experienced players, when they come in, you know, you need that to enhance some of the younger players you've got in the squad, some of the ones that have been kind of journeyman-ish. You know, they've played for a bunch of teams, have not really settled anywhere. Playing and training alongside Kyle Walker gives a lot of them a real taste of that's what it's like to end up at the top end. You need to be more like this guy and how he trains and operates and carries himself. Jokes aside about Kyle Walker, I know there's lots of about jokes you could make about him being an example and whatever, but I do think this is like an understated massive purchase, massive acquisition for the team here, and I've got a little bit more faith in Burnley with Walker in the squad. And it's kind of weird how him and Trippier were kind of, you know, both at Tottenham and had kind of similar kind of outlooks in life. Trippier was at Burnley and kind of went on his career. Walker went on his career and ended up at Burnley. So I kind of like that kind of parallel that's kind of drawn there a little bit as well. Burnley have got with England right backs or top end right backs, however you want to think of it. But yeah, Feel free to get into the comment section again. Let me know who Burnley are looking for that we've not spoke about in the video today here as well. Is there any other developments we get through pre-season and friendlies? Always interested and excited to see the comment section and see what you guys are giving it when it comes to Burnley. And yeah, on screen are now some other stuff that I've made that the YouTube thinks you might enjoy. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more content like this. Hit the like button, jump into the comment section, all that good stuff, guys. Stay out of trouble, and I will catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.